The smoke alarm screamed through the Havenbrook Hotel at exactly 5:47 in the morning, but Callum Brennan was already moving. 7 floors of concrete and fire stood between him and the woman whose screams cut through the roar of flames. 7 floors that would change the course of two broken lives forever. He didn't think about the job interview that could save his daughter's future in 3 hours. He didn't think about the borrowed suit now burning on his back. He didn't think about the knee that doctors had warned would never hold up to this kind of punishment again. He only thought about her. The stairwell was a tunnel of smoke and brutal heat. Each step sent pain shooting through his left knee like a knife twisting in old wounds. That knee was a permanent reminder of the warehouse collapse 2 years ago, the night that had ended his career as a firefighter and shattered every dream he had built. But Callum had spent 5 years running into burning buildings when everyone else ran out. His body remembered the rhythm of rescue, even when his mind wanted to forget. Fourth floor, the smoke grew thicker. Fifth floor, his lungs burned with each breath. Sixth floor, he could hear the fire now, roaring like a beast awakening from ancient slumber. Seventh floor, he pushed through the stairwell door and stepped into hell itself. The hallway was a nightmare of gray-black smoke and orange flame dancing across the ceiling. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. The sprinkler system had engaged, but the water only created thick steam that mixed with the smoke, making everything infinitely worse. "Fire department," he shouted, the old words coming automatically. "Anyone here?" A sound cut through the roar, faint, desperate, someone coughing. "Help! Please!" Callum dropped to his knees where the air was clear and crawled toward the sound. Most doors stood open, rooms abandoned by guests who had evacuated, but one door remained stubbornly closed. Room 714. He reached the door and tried the handle, locked from inside. "Get away from the door, I'm coming in." He drove his shoulder into the door. Pain exploded through his arm, but the door held. Again, the frame cracked. Again. On the fourth impact, the door burst open. The room was filled with choking smoke. By the window, collapsed against the wall, he saw her, a woman in business attire, dark hair falling across her pale face. Her eyes were barely open, glazed with oxygen deprivation. She had tried to open the window. He could see the desperate scratch marks on the frame, but it was jammed shut. "I've got you," Callum said, moving to her side. "We're getting out." He wrapped his jacket around her shoulders and lifted her onto his shoulder. The muscle memory returned as if he had never left the job. She was lighter than he expected, or maybe the adrenaline made her seem that way. She coughed weakly, then whispered something against his shoulder, 3 words that made no sense. "Not an accident." Before he could ask what she meant, her body went limp. The hallway was worse now. Fire had spread with terrifying speed. Callum moved as fast as his damaged knee would allow, half running toward the stairwell. Behind him, a window exploded, feeding the hungry fire with fresh oxygen. 7 floors down. His knee screamed with every step, threatening to buckle, but it held. The woman's grip tightened halfway down. She was conscious again, holding on. Callum burst through the lobby door into controlled chaos. Fire trucks were pulling up outside. Paramedics rushed toward him, taking the woman from his shoulders, pressing an oxygen mask to her face. She opened her eyes one more time, looked directly at him. Her hand reached out weakly. "Not an accident," she whispered. "Someone deliberately." Then her eyes closed, and the paramedics wheeled her away. A woman with sharp eyes and a detective's badge stepped into Callum's path. "Sir, I'm Detective Rosa Delgado, Arson Investigation Unit. This fire shows signs of being deliberately set. I need your statement." Arson. The word connected with something the woman had whispered. "Here's my number." He pressed an old business card into the detective's hand. "I'll call you back. I promise. But I have somewhere I have to be." And then Callum Brennan disappeared into the Chicago dawn, leaving behind the sirens and the smoke, and the woman whose life he had just saved, a woman whose name he didn't know. 3 hours earlier, Callum had woken in darkness, 4:47 in the morning, 13 minutes before his alarm. Not because he had slept enough, he had only managed 3 fitful hours, interrupted at 2 a.m. when Waverly started coughing. His daughter, 6 years old, the center of his universe. He had spent an hour holding the nebulizer mask to her small face, reading her favorite story about the brave little lighthouse. Her breathing had evened out eventually, and she had fallen asleep curled against his chest. Now Callum sat on the edge of his bed and stared at his phone. Bank balance 412.37. Waverly's asthma medication, $287 per month. Rent due in 5 days, $200. The math didn't work. It hadn't worked in months. Today was supposed to change everything. The interview at Atlas Dynamics. Operations manager, $47,000 with full benefits. Health insurance that would cover Waverly's medication. It wasn't a dream job, but it was a job that could save them both. His mother, Lorraine, arrived at 5:15, moving through the apartment with quiet efficiency. She was 62, her dark hair streaked with gray, but her eyes were still sharp. She had raised Callum alone after his father, a police officer, was killed when Callum was 12. She had worked 2 jobs while putting herself through night school. Now she was helping raise her granddaughter while her son tried to piece his life back together. She hugged him at the door. "You've got this, Callum. You've never given up on anything in your life." He didn't tell her about the nights he had wanted to give up, the times he sat in his car outside Engine Company 51, watching the trucks roll out, remembering what it felt like to belong somewhere. 2 years ago, he had been somebody. Lieutenant Callum Brennan, Engine Company 51. Commendations on his record. Respect from his peers. Then came the warehouse fire on Ashland Street. The building had been a maze of old timber and improperly stored chemicals. Callum and 2 other firefighters had gone in for a final sweep. The second floor had given way without warning. 3 went in, 3 came out, but only 1 could still walk without limping. The department doctors wouldn't clear him for active duty. They offered him a desk position. That wasn't the job he had signed up for. Medical discharge, then the divorce. Jennifer had never wanted the life of a firefighter's wife, and she definitely didn't want the life of a disabled ex-firefighter's wife. Now he was just Callum, just a father trying to keep his daughter alive. He put on the suit borrowed from Mr. Chen next door. It was tight in the shoulders, loose at the waist. He shaved carefully, nicking himself once. "I'll call you as soon as it's done," he told his mother. "Go show them who you are." Callum walked into the cold Chicago morning, carrying the weight of everything he had left to lose. The Target bathroom at 7:30 was a harsh judge. His borrowed suit was ruined, burned, soaked with sweat and ash. He had $23 in his wallet and an emergency credit card. This qualified. New white dress shirt, $19.99. Bottle of cologne, $8.99. He changed in the stall, scrubbed his face until the skin was raw. The borrowed pants were dark enough that the soot stains barely showed. The cut on his palm from broken glass was deep. He bought bandages and did his best. The smell of smoke still clung to him. He sprayed the cheap cologne everywhere, knowing he probably smelled ridiculous. His phone buzzed. His mother. "Waverly's still sleeping. I believe in you." Callum squared his shoulders and walked toward Atlas Dynamics. The building rose 15 stories into the Chicago sky, all glass and steel. The lobby was polished marble and expensive art. People in tailored suits moved with the confidence of those who belong. Callum did not belong here, but Waverly needed her medicine. 9:02 in the morning. Conference room on the 8th floor. 3 people sat across the table. Derek Thornton, VP of Operations, with silver-streaked hair and skeptical eyes. Diana Marsh, HR Director, with a tablet and a practiced smile. Robert Kane, CFO, already checking his phone. They tried not to stare at his bandaged hand, the new shirt that didn't match his pants, the faint smell of smoke. Mr. Brennan, Derek began, your resume is impressive. 5 years with the fire department, rank of lieutenant. But you left 2 years ago. Can you explain? Callum opened his mouth to deliver his rehearsed answer.